Of all the different forms of therapy that I've tried, writing therapy has produced the best results. Now, what that means for me is that oftentimes I'll feel this build up, this pressure of mental energy. It's hard to explain, but basically I just feel the need to express something. And sometimes exercise helps this, or punching a punching bag, that sort of stuff. But for me, the best way to express it is through writing. So I'll grab a pen and a piece of paper and just write. The thoughts will come out, and it's just this sort of free-flowing expression. I found it best to just keep writing, and while I'm doing that, not look back over it, because it's very easy to judge what you're doing. And you're not really writing a piece of art, you're just getting the stuff out of your head. So for me, I found that to be the best form of therapy. And there's a couple of reasons. One, and the main one for me, is that it allows me to express myself without fear of judgment. Now, don't get me wrong, I do very much advocate and see professional psychologists when I need to. But the one of the big barriers in my mind is that there's a trust issue, and if part of your mental affliction involves having issues trusting talking to people, then seeing a therapist is going to have, initially at least, a barrier there. And I'm still working through that, trying to be as open, as honest as I can with my therapist. But it's a hard process, because you're talking to an actual human who's sitting there and who's is thinking about it, and their job is to effectively judge and help you through your problems. Whilst that's helpful, it can be quite confronting. Whereas with a page, the page listens, it doesn't judge. You can write down whatever you like and it won't say anything back, obviously. So the real battle becomes having the courage to express everything that you're saying and putting it down on the page and sharing it with yourself, basically. Because after these pieces, I get my thoughts out and I put it on the page. Then it's there, and I've got a couple of options. I can choose to throw out the page. I could choose to burn it and get rid of it. More often than not, though, I choose to take a look over it, because it's almost like looking into my psyche from a bit of a detached perspective. I can see what I've been thinking. And I know that sounds funny. It's like, well, don't you know? It's like, well, yeah, of course I know what I'm thinking, but it's more that when it's on the page, you get a chance to really see with some clarity and detached and sort of step back nature what's going on in your mind. And what I find more often than not is that I'm writing down ruminations and anxieties and thoughts that, whilst they hold some truth, they're not as important as they feel when they're just inside my mind. When they're up here, they're sort of grinding at me and getting to me. But when I put them on the page, I can step back and see that they're a lot less powerful and a lot less poignant than they initially feel. So you get this benefit of seeing what they actually are, as opposed to this sort of emotional connection that freaks out. So I find that as quite beneficial. And what's more, the act of just writing it itself is a release. It's like, I put it down as an akin to a dam building up. So like the idea, if there's the dam, like they have some water flowing out, it's because if they don't, the dam will eventually break or overflow. And I put that down to a mental state thing as well. If you don't do things to help get the stuff out of your mind and sort of deal with it, it'll, in my experience, and I've seen it happen with other people, you just get overwhelmed and you just sort of explode. Writing does that. It's a pressure release. It helps to let go of that sort of stuff. Same thing with exercise, same thing with martial arts, same thing with any sort of physical thing or any sort of expression. It's a release. It helps you to let go. So if you think that it'll help you, grab a pen and try it and just write some stuff down. Don't judge it, don't look over it, just do the act of writing. And a lot of people sort of share their concern that they're worried, oh, what if someone sees it? What if someone watches me? What if someone reads it? Legitimate concern. Okay, write it down, go straight to the toilet, rip it up and throw it out. It's not about keeping the physical work that you create. It's about the expression itself. You're not trying to keep the exercise session or keep the punches that you're hitting into a bag. It's the act of writing that will help. If you can, keep it, look over it, and it's a way to sort of judge where you're at. But by all means, you don't have to. Give it a try and let me know how you think, because I find tremendous benefit from writing therapy. And what's more, the act of writing, doing a writing therapy session like this, helps me to produce fiction and poetry that I'm then able to create and express myself further. It's sort of, by writing these and getting these thoughts out, it sort of helps me to clarify my brain, and then bam, I can produce some fiction and poetry that I'm actually quite happy with. So in the links below, I've placed a couple of examples of my fiction and poetry that I've written following a writing session, as well as a link to my most recent podcast. And in that episode, I read out a couple of these pieces, as well as talk through the process of writing therapy in quite a bit more detail. So if you haven't already, check out my podcast. It's called the Reality Check Podcast, and take a search for it, have a look, and take a listen to the most recent episode, number 31, and you can hear more about writing therapy and listen to a couple of pieces of my fiction, or alternatively, check out the links below to check out some of the works of fiction that I've done following a writing therapy piece. So like I said, let me know if writing therapy works for you and your experiences with it, and if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm on all forms of social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and now Pinterest at Zach P. Phillips. So please, ask me any questions you have. And also, head over to my website at zachary-phillips.com, and from there you can check out all my blogs, podcasts, videos, fictions, everything I've got. And, if you like what you're seeing, please consider subscribing to the email list, because that way you'll get updates direct to your email list. Because, when you're on social media, you don't always see, even though you're following someone, you don't always see everything they post. In fact, when someone posts, it only really goes to about 10 to 20% of their audience. So if you want to stay up to date with someone, follow their email list, subscribe to them, and stay up to date. Thanks.